Hello, everybody. This is Renault, and today we've got it's not quite a drama video, but it is something that I did want to touch upon. And today we're going to talk about piracy and piracy in comics, but not from the usual suspects. Turns out that there's a lot more people out there who advocate for pirating comic books than we all thought, including a lot of so-called creators. Now, this is actually something that Peter Simeti touched upon last year, where it turns out that he was sending out preview copies for people, and he was wondering how these pirates were getting his book. So what he did was he gave a special marking or a special way to mark the comics, and so he sent each one of the comics preview sites a special watermark that they didn't know about. And so when the comics started showing up on pirate sites, he was able to determine which comics previews professionals were uploading his comics to pirate locations, and so that's why he stopped using preview sites altogether, because it turns out the phone call was coming from within the house. It's not just random trolls online. It's actual professionals in the industry who are advocating for and supporting piracy. And everybody, it's kind of like an open secret, but Peter Simeti kind of proved it. And so it's the same situation with crowdfunding comics, apparently. Independent creators are supposed to be protecting one another, making sure that, everyone's bottom line is getting protected. And it turns out, once again, the calls are coming from within the house. This time, I'm not accusing George Alexopoulos of being a pirate, but I am going to go ahead and say he's a pirate advocate. And so let's just listen to what he has to say.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to record a quick public service announcement. Something came to my attention just now that I think customers should be warned about.
Customers are people who buy comics, George. Customers buy airlines tickets. Customers buy video games. Customers buy food. This isn't a customer service announcement. This is oh snap, we're protecting pirates because customers inherently pay for things or use a service legitimately. That's not what you're doing. This isn't a public service announcement for customers. Let's continue.
There's a book going around that people can get.
Yes, people can get. How do they get the book, George? They pay for it. If they're not paying for it, then you don't need this. This would totally be unnecessary for people who are paying for the comic, George. You're supposed to be an independent creator, and yet you're advocating for the sabotage of other independent creators right here in public.
The digital version of a book called Red Rooster by a guy named Mitch Breitweiser, and I don't personally know the guy, but I've heard from two sources.
Yes. There's this book from some guy called Mitch Breitweiser. This guy, George Alexopoulos, claims that he was in Comicsgate for over a year. Now, you don't have to know everybody in Comicsgate. You don't. But you should know a couple of people, especially since Mitch Breitweiser raised over nearly $140,000. Yeah, sure, you were Comicsgate, George. Sure you were. But now there's just some guy. He released some book. I mean, yes, I'm supposed to be some guy in Comicsgate for over a year, but there's just some guy I never heard of named Mitch Breitweiser releasing some book I've never heard of and certainly didn't purchase called Red Rooster? Yeah, go on, George.
That there is something called DRM on the PDF itself, which basically means in gaming terms it's digital rights management, which it's not the greatest practice in the world, and I just want to explain why real quick.
Actually, DRM is a matter of implementation, George. There are poor implementations of digital rights management, and there are good examples of digital rights management. I don't know why you, an independent creator who would theoretically be getting screwed if people wanted to pirate your book, but let's face it, nobody is, because nobody cares about your book. It's low quality garbage, and you're a piece of shit. But so that's something you don't have to worry about. But other creators and other companies who make things of quality that people want, this is something that they would have to worry about. That's why digital rights management is a matter of implementation. It's not necessarily bad. But continue, George. Tell us more about how you're a pro-piracy advocate who clearly doesn't buy the things he's talking about. Let's go.
Quick. So DRM basically it's a measure to stop piracy.
Oh, yes, yes. It's a thing you're not a fan of. You're not a fan of people putting a stop to people stealing. Again, DRM has good implementation and it has bad implementation. So it's neither good or bad. I mean, it's bad if you're a pirate, but, otherwise you're just neutral on it because you're not a fucking thief. I mean, right, George? You're not a fucking thief. You're not a person who steals from other independent creators, even though you yourself are an independent creator. Or are you an example of the calls are coming from within the house? Let's go. Tell us more about how you want to your pro piracy advocate views. Tell us more, George.
So in gaming terms, let's say you buy a copy of Final Fantasy VII, and to stop you from pirating it, maybe they might put something in the code so that you can only activate it on your one account, on your one computer, and you can't make copies of the game and distribute it to friends, and then they can install it, right?
Right. Practice you just admitted you think is bad. You think it's bad that people can distribute something they paid for and then just start handing it out for free, causing the publisher money or the creator money. Tell us more about how this is bad. Again, me personally, DRM has good implementation and bad implementation, but it's about the implementation. DRM itself is neither good nor bad, but that's not the stance George, an independent creator, is taking. Let's see. Tell us more, George, you pro-piracy advocate.
Something like an installation key might be included. Other games don't have DRM, something like StarCraft, where if you have the key, you could just install it unlimited amounts of time on any number of computers. In this case, it seems that the author has put DRM on the PDF of his book, which whatever. Everybody has their own ways of fighting piracy, I guess. But in this case, once you buy the book, it seems that when you register it, it puts your email address. It seems. I can't. Two sources have told me this.
Yes, it seems that way. You can't confirm it yourself because you yourself didn't buy the book. Of course, maybe you would pirate it. Maybe it's being distributed in back channels in the piracy circuit, and maybe that's how you'll get the book. Am I right, George? Because you don't have to buy every Comicsgate book, of course, but it's like, man, I am just so unfamiliar with these people in Comicsgate. I just don't know. Yes, I've been in Comicsgate for a year before I quote unquote got harassed out of the movement. But, I don't know anything about the people except EVS. That's the only person I know in Comicsgate, and anybody who opposes me is also Comicsgate. Yeah, fuck you, George. Come on, let's go.
Puts your email address very quietly, like a watermark, if you can see. It's very faint, let's say. In the corner of the page. It might be in other places as well. I don't actually know. But anyway, that's just to let everybody know that that's one of the steps, at least one of the steps that they've taken to prevent piracy.
Yes, and you've got, as just a public service announcement that you're making to legitimate customers, right, George? That there's this watermark, and you've got to let people know about this watermark. So it's certainly not to protect pirates because you're a fucking asshole. No, it's just a public service announcement.
So the solution to this obviously is don't share screenshots even any screenshots at all of the book with anybody, even on social media or anything like that, just to give people a sample, because it's possible that your email address might be watermarked somewhere on the pages. As for my opinion on this, I don't like DRM.
Yes, you don't like any anti-piracy measure. It's not that some anti-piracy measures are good and some anti-piracy measures are bad. You just don't like anyone who tries to put a stop to piracy at all, because you're a fucking pirate yourself. Or clarification, you're certainly a piracy advocate. Definitely. I don't know if you pirate. You probably pirate, but you are definitely a piracy advocate. Won't someone think of the poor pirates?
First of all, I think the customer should have known that this was a thing. I'm sure there was some check mark that you had to sign that you're not going to share pages, but
Well, you would know that if you bought the book, by the way, Mr. Customer Advocate.
what if you have a favorite panel and you want to share that? Now you have to worry about, is your email address on there?
Yes, yes.
Digital rights management is actually, I think it's kind of anti-consumer.
Yes. Notice how he said consumer. He didn't say customer. He said anti-consumer. Because you know who else consumes things? Pirates and thieves. This is kind of unbearable, so I'm going to put it at 1.5 speed.
Worry about that because it usually inconveniences customers. Like in the case of now, somebody might accidentally share an image, and then other people will get to see their email address that they used to register the PDF. In most cases, this won't be a problem, but let's say you wanted to keep your email address private, right? So it's not a pleasant surprise to know that you might have accidentally shared it with some people. So I don't think that's the coolest thing in the world. I would get in contact with the author and, did they let people know this ahead of time? I don't think it's.
Well, if you were a customer, George, you would know whether people were made aware of it ahead of time.
The coolest thing in the world. And also, I don't think it stops piracy, because once you identify things like watermarks or any other DRM that might be on a piece of software in gaming terms, pirates consider it good sport to break digital rights management, hackers, and that sort of thing. Once they identify ways to get around it, again, nothing will stop them from spreading it anyway. So,
yes, nothing will stop them, but as Peter Samedi's little example showed, if you do it discreetly and then you catch people red-handed, it does allow you to take steps to prevent it from happening in the future, like Peter Samedi did when he hid a hidden watermark in some of his preview comics, and then he was able to determine that it was actually the professionals in the industry who were pirating his comics, not random people online. So fuck you again, George.
in gaming terms, I'm a huge gamer. DRM actually just inconveniences your customers.
No, actually, it doesn't just inconvenience your customers. If it's done well, you probably are a pirate. That's probably why you find it so inconvenient. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of examples of bad DRM, but, there's also examples of DRM that gets implemented where if you're not a thief, you don't notice it at all.
But does not stop piracy necessarily. So just a word of advice from one creator to others is probably don't do DRM, and definitely.
Yes, don't do anything to stop other people from pirating, because it would inconvenience people like George Alexopoulos, whom he advocates for.
I don't know. This can only piss off your customers, right? So I don't think this was a good move.
Actually, no, it's not. Let's keep this clear. It's not going to piss off customers. I'm certainly not pissed off. I bought the book, George. I'm not pissed off. I'm glad he's doing it. You clearly did not buy the book, and the people you are associating with clearly didn't buy the book. Your two sources who are so concerned about, oh no, we might have gotten caught pirating.
I just wanted to let everyone know who might have ordered the book. Please be careful. You don't want to accidentally share your personal information.
Yes. To the people who ordered the book, not your pirate.
Like, I'm sure this was there so that if let's say somebody copies the PDF and spreads it around, George at so-and-so email.com, the author can then track it down and say, aha, George copied it and distributed it, right? But
don't worry. Well, it would never be you, George, because do you even buy comics? Starting to think you're one of those people who actually doesn't buy comics.
I don't know. You can understand. I'm sure you guys can use your imaginations. There are more ways this can go wrong than it can help anyone. So I don't think this is a great practice. I don't encourage authors, creators, IP holders to use DRM.
Yes, yes. Don't implement a well-done DRM. Just don't do it at all. Don't protect yourself at all.
I guess I'll save my little soapbox for another time. I just wanted to warn people about this and, keep your information safe. And I guess if you don't appreciate this, I mean, let the author know. Gosh, I don't know. I don't know the details of it. Anyway, wanted to warn everybody. Hope you guys have a good Saturday. Stay safe with Corona and stuff. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Yeah, fuck you, George. Anyway, that was pro-piracy advocate George Alexopoulos. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.